Do you like basketball? Basketball, no. I like, but I'm not good at. Yes, I'm not.
Me too.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the State of the League podcast, the only NBA podcast where everybody on here has been driving around City Hall, airdropping Chinese spyware to anyone who will accept it for about past hour and a half or so, just doing our due diligence as far as like the ban and everything goes. I'm your host, Jack, aka Jokic Joestar. With me, as always, the world-famous Pablo Escobar, and we are joined today by the Sack Boys themselves, Left Nut and Right Nut.
A pair of kings.
Yeah, a pair of kings. Hell yeah. Aaron, Possiblechairs, and Jack, the Kings fan.
Those tags won't matter much longer.
Yeah. Just Aaron and Jack, really, at this point. I'll throw it to Aaron. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. I figured I'd see you guys in the unemployment line with our how to learn Mandarin in 100 days, but we're trying to figure it out, maybe little red note stuff, but it's pretty dicey.
Mm-hmm. Jack, what about you?
I'm just getting ready to transport to just be on Yaolong for the rest of my life on Red Note, learning Mandarin.
I haven't downloaded it yet. I was like, my phone is so full that like to get my boarding pass when I flew home from Christmas, I had to delete Blue Sky. That's how like full my fucking storage is. And so I was like going through and deleting. I mean, I'm terrible about like photo management. I was deleting like Will Barton memes from 2018 off my phone. And so, yeah, maybe once I'm done with that undertaking, I'll have a little room for the red book or whatever it is.
I was in the process of making an account. I already had an account going back maybe a month and a half ago, just a personal account, though, to see what was happening, because there was a lot of hype back then about Zhao Hongshu. But as I started making my basketball account, I'm pretty sure I got banned in the middle of making it. I'm pretty sure you can't like say anything close to Pablo Escobar. So that's my theory, at least. All the messages telling you you're banned are in Chinese fully, so I don't know for sure. But so I'm gonna try and rebrand to something slightly different.
That's so funny.
But even if TikTok is saved, I think we should invest in Zhao Hongshu, because there's so many Chinese basketball fans. It's really the future.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
It's funny, like we've all been complaining this whole time. You get a guidelines violation on TikTok. You thought that was unhelpful. You thought that was stonewalled. Try just a wall of Mandarin Chinese text as your only option going forward. That's tough. Oh man. All right, so I don't know if you guys know this, the listeners, but the Kings have been on a little bit of a hot streak. It's been a pretty eventful season for the boys in purple, the Beam team. Ass for a while, just like straight up bottom of the barrel as far as teams trying to be competitive go. But since the Mike Brown firing, really the ship has completely turned around, I guess. Yeah, so like I was talking with Jack before we got on here, they started 13-19, and they hit the 13 seed at the lowest point of the season, if I'm correct. It was something like that. They had a number, like 5 straight losses, and a lot of them were pretty embarrassing. They blew a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter to the Nuggets. They lost back-to-back to the Lakers. They got blown out by the Pacers. And then, obviously, the Pistons game, where they fouled Jaden Ivey on what would have been the game-tying three-pointer, but with the foul, that won the game for Detroit. And then immediately Mike Brown gets fired. So, Aaron, we'll start with you. At that point, what were the vibes like? Like, right, you lose to the Pistons, Mike Brown gets fired. What was going through your mind and everything?
So I was actually at that game. I went to that game.
Oh, that's so great. Oh, my God.
And I was so upset prior that I was like, we're going to bring paper bags and we're going to wear them over our heads. But then I was like, no, like, let's wait for this to get worse.
Mhm.
Like a meaningless game, because maybe we'll turn this around. But the vibes like at the arena were still pretty good. You know, lots of cheers for Mike Brown. And I'd been there when the head coach is not cheered for, when it's Luke Walton. And I remember my dad would always say, like, no, they're saying Luke. And I'm like, they are not fucking saying Luke. They are booing him. Like
Luke.
they're booing the head coach.
Yeah, I love that classic cheer where you just say the first name of the head coach over and over.
Well, they're referencing the
Um,
Drake and Josh Christmas movie where they're standing outside Luke's house. They say, Luke, Luke, Luke. And then he chimes in
yeah.
and says, 5 gold ring. And then they all sing together.
That's right.
Wow.
That's what I was
That
thinking,
was
too.
super topical, Pablo. Thanks for that, man. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, it wasn't necessarily Luke Walton minutes at Golden One Center just yet.
But you get the firing basically directly after, and I really didn't anticipate that because that was such a strange kind of. Everyone's kind of very upset with this season. This is the season of hell all of a sudden. But like they couldn't actually fire Mike Brown. Like Mike Brown, first coach fired. I wonder what the odds were on that one, but I think it's a really interesting look into Keon Ellis. And because we came on here before the season, and we're like, Keon Ellis is going to start, and because
Aaron,
of
we
that,
came on here like 2 years ago almost at this point and said
Yeah.
that Keon Ellis should be featured in the rotation.
it took Mike Brown 3 years to.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple pieces. It took him this long to realize the guy who's at practice every single day probably should be in the rotation, and then he never figured out that he was good enough to start. And it's not just like, oh, Mike Brown got fired off of Keon Ellis. It's a reflection on Harrison Barnes starting 82 games, which is a reflection on Sasha Vezenkov not finding minutes because
Yeah.
Barnes has to be out there. And then we dump him attaching Davion in draft capital to get off that contract. And it's like Mike Brown's stubbornness throughout the rotations were so harmful. They were so backwards and so confusing that I was convinced it was a management thing. Like Vivek was like, if you play Keon Ellis and don't play Kevin Huerter, I'll fire you tonight. Like, don't you fucking dare. Because it was so confusing. But then the fact that they fired him and just immediately start playing Keon and immediately start winning, it's like, well, it wasn't that. That was a Mike Brown thing. And I mean, the lineup data, the on-off numbers are so jarring in favor of Keon Ellis. Like, does Mike Brown have access to lineup data? Does he need a Cleaning the Glass subscription? Like, dude, I'll cover it for you. Like, I'll email you these numbers, man. Like, look at this stuff. Where's our analytics department?
So did he like Davion Mitchell? Did he play him a lot?
Davion got a lot of run.
So what was there ever any rationale given in like post-game press conferences? Did he ever give any insights into his
No.
tortured mind about why he wasn't
No,
playing
he didn't.
Keon Ellis?
He didn't. And there was a quote earlier in the season that really scared me in terms of Keon's play in the beginning of the year. Is first game of the year, Huerter starts. And this is after, if you remember, the end of last season where Keon got the starting role and the Kings were way better. It wasn't even like close. They were all of a sudden a top 5 defensive unit. Keon started to end the year, and he started in the playing games, and everyone, Aaron, myself, and most other Kings fans just assumed, oh yeah, okay, well, he's earned the starting role. Clearly, he killed it at the end of the year. He killed it in the postseason. Surely he's starting day one, especially given that Huerter was injured for all of preseason and training camp. But then, first game of the
Don't
season,
call Mike
it's
Brown
Huerter in the starting
Shirley.
lineup. It's Huerter in the starting lineup again, and they ask him after the game, like, whoa, what happened there? And he's like, well, Keon was just filling in for Kevin. And I was like, oh, crap. There we go. He never was part of the plan.
God.
That's so sick,
God.
dude. Yeah,
He was just filling in. Like, okay, he
great
was filling
player.
in, but he
Yeah.
happened to be 10 times better. Like, okay, that's cool.
Tom
I
Brady
have
is
a
filling
Huerter
in
stat.
for
Game
Bledsoe.
Yeah, the Herder stats are just awful. Right now, he is a
They're bad.
negative,
I mean, go ahead.
dude, negative 30.2 net rating differential when he's on or off the court. I didn't even think that was possible. That's beyond science. I don't, 30.2, negative 30.2?
He's worse for the team than Jokic is good for the team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is. He is.
That's a great way to look
insane.
at it.
Keon Ellis MVP based off of those numbers. But I made a video after game 2 or 3 saying to fire Mike Brown because that was so unexplainable to me that Ellis wouldn't be in the rotation for a team that lacks size and defensive instincts. Like, I mean, Sabonis's defensive numbers have looked fairly good this season, but like, he's not Rudy Gobert. You should surround him with good defensive players. And Herter,
He's not Şengün.
blows on that, and he's shooting 31% from three. Like, him and Asar Thompson are jacking up the same percentage, man. Like, it's not a good look.
Yeah, and so, I mean, yeah, I guess we could just get right into this then. So yeah, the vibes were shit. You fire Mike Brown, and instantly everything kind of rights itself. And yeah, so 7-game win streak. Obviously, last night or 2 nights ago, I don't know exactly when this will go up, but they got nuked by the Bucks. It is what it is. Like, no one was expecting like a turnaround into like they're going to be the 3 seed now or anything. But 7 straight wins and a lot of like really impressive wins when you look around at like how they had lost games prior to the Mike Brown firing. Where the one that I locked in a lot, I fell asleep when the Kings went down 17 to the Miami Heat, and I woke up and they had won, and I was like, That's an insanely impressive win to pull it out in double overtime. It was not the kind of win they had gotten before that firing. And so I went back and watched everything, and it really was jarring. Like, over the course of the 7-game win streak, you get contributions from everywhere, and a lot of players turned around really important skills, like Keegan Murray's 3-point shooting or whatever. Like, that turned around a lot. But in the Heat game, it was insane how squarely that win did just fall on the shoulders of Keon Ellis to me. Like, every single time that like momentum was getting away from them a little bit, they had a bad offensive possession that if the Heat capitalized, you didn't know if the Kings were going to be able to like stick around and keep it a close game. And then the ball like bounces off the rim, and Keon Ellis just comes flying in out of nowhere to extend the possession or throw it off Hero out of bounds or whatever. And so, yeah, it was just like, for all of the people, because there was a ton of discourse about like, is Mike Brown being scapegoated and shit. And a lot of like, one of the most common takes I saw online after the firing was like, it's fine to fire Mike Brown, but 30 minutes of Keon Ellis instead of like 20 minutes isn't going to change your life or anything. It's hilarious how instantly that take has just kind of like been wrong. And as the sample size goes on, I think you'll probably see that like he's a great role player. He's like a very impactful guy, but he is like, you do need to do other stuff if you're the Kings. But just like in this short term stretch of success for Sacramento, how directly it lands on Keon Ellis just coming in and not being Kevin Huerter, much less being like a really good defender and 3-point shooter and everything, but just being like an average guy on off nights in space of Kevin Huerter has been so insane for the Kings. And so, yeah, I did just want to shout out both of you guys, because you've been singing his praises, like Jack said, for years at this point on here, just coming on and being like, no, when he plays, oh my, this summer league game that I saw, he's going to be something, you guys. And everyone's been like, yeah, not to that degree. And now we're seeing it. It really has been that degree, kind of post Mike Brown firing.
Yeah, that Heat game you're referencing, he had 3 steals, a block, and I didn't even believe this number when I first saw it. I had to go rewatch the game to make sure it was right. But he recorded 14 deflections. 14.
Damn.
That is an insane amount of impact. And people love to scream on the internet like, oh, Kevin Huerter, his off-ball defense is off the charts, which, by the way, is what you say when your shooter can't shoot.
Yeah.
His off-ball defense might be nice.
Who said that?
Dude, you don't want to know. There's a lot of people who love to say things like that. And the reality is, like, you're getting a better shooter with Keon, and you're getting like one of the better off-ball defenders in the league. There was no justification for him to ever not play. And the idea that he got scapegoated is a little funny to me. Like, obviously, the way he got fired is not good. It's not how good organizations fire coaches. They don't let them run practice, let them talk to the media, and then fire them over the phone. That's just not the kind of respect you give a manager. However, he had to go. It just had to happen. You can't have a player as as obviously impactful as Keon Ellis and have Jordan McLaughlin like repeatedly get minutes over him. Colby Jones repeatedly get minutes. I understand if you want to play big against teams, if you feel like you need a different kind of look at bigger teams, but you're playing Jordan McLaughlin in minutes that Keon could play. There's no justification for doing that sort of thing unless you aren't trying to win. It just doesn't make sense. It never did.
14 deflections. Sounds like an argument with my ex-wife.
Wow.
I need like a cymbal.
That was great. Yeah, we
Great.
need a drum shot on StreamYard.
Yeah, exactly.
I like Jack showing off his slowly revealing the football side by calling or soccer by calling
I
Mike
know.
Brown a
Yeah,
manager.
that was bad.
Like
This is just in case. Yeah. This is just in
Three
case we
inglorious
Kyle.
like,
Yeah, in case it's a
really
Kyle
a
Kuzma
manager,
trade.
huh?
Yeah, if we do a
You
Kyle Kuzma
dirty
trade, I will be
European.
I'll be an Arsenal fan. You'll never hear me talk about the Kings again.
Nice, beautiful. Okay, Pablo, what are you thinking about up there as far as like the Kings go so far?
Well, so I do have a question straight up first before we get to anything else. We've now seen Devin Carter play for the Kings. He made his debut. He's played a few games. After seeing him, would you rather have him than Josh Giddey? Because famously, the Bulls could have traded for the 13th pick. They could have traded Alex Caruso to the Kings for the 13th pick. And a lot of Bulls fans said, there's no way we could get anyone better than Josh Giddey with the 13th pick in a weak draft. So from what you've seen yet, is Devin Carter as good or better or worse than Josh Giddey?
He's better. I think he's better.
He's a lot better.
It's all right. It's okay. He's a lot better immediately in like limited minutes. Per 36, he's averaging 15, 12, and 5 with a block.
Okay, well, Josh Giddey's averaging. What the fuck are Giddey's averages on the season? It's probably I would say like 15, 8, and 8 on just dog shit efficiency. And I swear to God, every time I check and they get like an 8-point win, he's somehow like -4 or -6 on the night. And it's like, oh, dude, what are we doing with this guy? Like,
how do you manage that?
Yeah, it's funky.
I have really loved Carter though. I think
do too. I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's only 6'2", but it's kind of exactly what I expected, what I wanted in someone that plays much bigger than his size because we lack wings already. His wingspan is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And averaging nearly 5 rebounds a game at 6'2" in 14 minutes of play, and that's like an impact he really makes. It's not just
36, 11 rebounds a game
class.
for Devin Carter.
Mm-hmm.
11 boards a game, a whole block, steal. He's playing unbelievable defense on the outside. He's been it's been limited minutes, but he and Keon, just having another defender on the floor has been hugely impactful for Keegan Murray. You mentioned that earlier, that like in this streak, Keegan's really stepped it up. And it's not a coincidence that he's sharing the floor more with guys who can actually defend, because that was Mike Brown's favorite thing on earth, was playing lineups that featured Keegan Murray as a defender. And then it was like Kevin Huerter and Doug McDermott and Malik Monk and Domantas Sabonis. And it's just 1v5 on the other end. You put Keegan on the floor with Keon, you put him on the floor with Devin Carter, and he's shooting 47% right now. Like that's exactly what you always needed from him. He's all the way back to it.
Yeah. I did write down, so like I have a section here just called like what's changed in the win streak. Like what stylistically, how do these Kings games look different? And one of the things I wrote down was just like an injection of youth, like the construction of the team, even just with those two guys out there. It feels so much different. Like when you're seeing minutes of like Carter, Keon Ellis, and Keegan Murray all at the same time, you do just feel like they can play so much more freely on both ends of the floor. Like it feels like there's athletes out there who are making plays that are leading to like, I don't know, fast breaks, or who on the other end are like stopping easy buckets and allowing the defense to get reset or whatever. Like in this stretch, what are they? 5th defensively, and yeah, like that. Just you see like a very direct link between playing good defenders in place of bad defenders, and all of a sudden, like you can survive on that end of the floor, while your offense that was already solid throughout the season, just takes a huge step forward because you have guys who can, I don't know, all your playmakers are now finishing plays, and even the guys who aren't necessarily great floor spacers or whatever, like Devin Carter, even outside of the Celtics explosion where he just torched Jack, I saw your tweets about it where it was like pull up three over Porzingis, pull up three over Porzingis, like he was just bombing on this guy. Even outside of those games where he hasn't been super effective as like a scorer or whatever, he does all of the other shit. It's already taken care of, so you're not asking Keegan Murray to do hustle plays, lock up the other team's best perimeter guy, and space the floor while Herter does nothing for 20 minutes a game. So yeah, I guess Jack, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think the biggest change or number of changes have been to contribute to the win streak?
I think it's the speed. I think that's the biggest thing I feel like I notice is the speed and the freedom. Sacramento Kings basketball, especially with De'Aaron Fox as your star player, the fastest guy in the NBA, your play style has to be fast. Like you have to be able to outpace opponents at all times. And under Christie, maybe it's just a new coach bump, like everyone's all bought in again, but it feels like the team is running and giving so much more energy on both ends, and that is hugely beneficial for the pieces that they have. Because, on paper, this Kings roster is not great defensively. You've got Keegan, you've got Keon, you've got Devin, and those are your only three like really great defenders. Sabonis is a good defender when he's out in space, but when he's defending in the paint and he's on the baseline, he's not as good. So by limiting the amount of like half court sets that you have to defend by keeping the other team running, you actually end up getting decent defensive performance out of Sabonis, which is exactly what you need. And because he can shoot now, and because he's always been able to run, you're able to do this sort of fast-paced,
Hell yeah.
5-out
Hell
offense.
Yeah.
Exactly, dude. It's like the 2017 Warriors. No, it's not. But it's the same idea.
Yeah.
You're able to really be free with Sabonis here. And he's Keegan's been great under Christie. Keon's been great under Christie. Fox and Monk have been great under Christie. Sabonis is the biggest beneficiary of Doug Christie. Like he is going to make an all-star game if he keeps playing this well. 22, 20, and 7 under Doug. Sheesh.
Yeah, I mean he's been incredible. And I don't mean to laugh at the shooting thing, because it's just like I don't know. Even if he's like always just gonna be 40% on 2 a game or whatever, it's just funny to watch it become like a talking point that like you say it and I'm like, that's fair, because like at the beginning in preseason or whatever, or towards the end of last year, if someone brings it up to me, it's just like, okay, yeah, cool, 50% on 1 a game or whatever, I don't give a shit. But once we get like 60 games of that or whatever, and he's a guy that like, even though if I'm a defense, you probably still live with it. The fact that he can punish it, it's just cool to see. It's a fun step forward for him for sure. Aaron, what do you think the big change is in this win streak?
I feel like it has to be just like the energy. I mean, Doug Christie's doing smelling salts on the sideline. He's like Joe Maz for the Sacramento area. I really feel like he is this like kind of psychotic presence, and it's so interesting listening to the players. They're like, what changed? What'd you guys do? And they're like, well, the coach told us, and then we did it. It's like, why didn't you do that for the last guy? They hated it. I just think that Mike Brown had lost the locker room in a way, and me and Jack had spoken previously about how Mike Brown's both inconsistent and yet stubborn rotations, which is it's just an insane combination to have, really kind of wore the players thin on the bench, how they felt about him, blowing the close games, whatnot. Another thing about Devin Carter to consider is that was a Mike Brown mistake waiting to happen. You don't think Kevin Huerter's eating up those minutes? There's not a fucking chance Devin Carter's playing 15 minutes a night under Mike Brown. I mean, Kevin Huerter needs his 40, guys. I mean, how is he going to play 40 minutes a night with all these guards in the team? This is a problem we have to fix. I just feel like it really seemed like there was a day or a day or two of, the Kings are a bunch of morons, and how could they fire this very professional head coach?
Unanimous coach of the year.
Unanimous coach of the year. The articles start to come out about like, the behind the scenes stuff, and no one wanted to fire Mike Brown, but it's like, come on, guys, like this was the right thing. The Sacramento Kings are the oldest franchise in the NBA. They are
Are they
100.
really?
That's right.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
they are
What
the
the
one
hell?
team that came from barnstorming. Um, there's like the original Celtics, might be a little bit older, but it's technically not the same franchise. But um, we're 120 years of woven together mistakes. There's not one single thing you can say like, oh, that's the problem. But just because Mike Brown wasn't the problem doesn't mean you shouldn't fix a problem. And the firing was the right decision. Devin Carter gets his minutes. The guys are juiced. We're playing with more pace. Yeah, it looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Pablo, what are you
that's
thinking?
funny. A lot of the reporting that came out after the firing, and a lot of the quotes we get from players is like, "Yeah, Doug Christie is a lot less mean to me. He's not yelling at me as much." And what you're saying about the energy level, the great Ben Pfeiffer wrote an article recently about the Kings turnaround, and one of the things he cited is the energy, the overall energy level of the defense. He said a reinvigorated roster under Doug Christie has forced more turnovers. It's grabbed more rebounds. It's cut down on mental mistakes. They jumped from 18th in steal rate under Brown to 11th under Doug Christie. And the offensively slanted guys of Malik Monk, Kevin Huerter, and DeMar DeRozan are defending harder. And he's pointed to clips of like DeMar DeRozan's backline play has really turned up. So it does seem there's been a higher level of buy-in from these guys in order. Is it in order to make Doug Christie look good or in order to make Mike Brown look bad? We'll see.
That'd be
Maybe
sick.
both.
Yeah.
Shout out
I
Ben
liked
Pfeiffer.
Aaron's. Yeah, shout out to Ben. I liked Aaron's comp of Joe Mazzulla for
Well,
Doug
wait, Jack,
Christie.
you say too. You said
Shout out
shout out
to-
to Ben Pfeiffer too. Okay.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Shout out to Ben Pfeiffer.
he's fine, I guess.
It's just like all three of us
Yeah.
said it, and you like noticeably didn't say it.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm
I
I'm
think I
doing
did.
like a Larry David.
No, I'm
thing
talking
about
lately,
Jack.
Oh,
where
other
it's
Jack. Jesus
like,
Christ.
yeah. I'm doing like I kind of like I go against the grain. Like I don't. It just like it's like why do I have to say it? Just because you told me to say it?
well, I know what's going on here. You're a big Jalen Green guy.
Yeah, that's me. That's hey, and I'm up. 2025 Jalen Green. He's like a walking 30 piece. So watch out for those Rockets. The conference finals are coming, people. Jack, what were you gonna say about Aaron? The Joe Mazzulla
okay.
comp? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, I like the Joe Mazzulla comp because he's got that psycho energy that I've always wanted as a Kings head coach. It sucks that Ime Udoka is like a Kings player, like a former King, and like that's the kind of guy I've always wanted as a coach. And Doug Christie is that, but he's like the positivity version of that. He's a positivity demon. He does the smelling salts, but then he's also like hugging guys after good plays and saying like I love you. He's the Joe Mazzulla of Ted Lasso's. He's legit Ted Lasso Joe Mazzulla. I love him.
Love that.
He's incredible.
There was when they forced the 5-second violation on the Bulls to like really ice the game. It cut back to him making the most insane fucking face I've ever seen. Where like he was really happy, but he was also just like, and it was like, oh dude, yeah, he's a nut job. But I mean, whatever gets the job done, really.
Who was throwing that pass in?
It literally might have been
Josh.
Yeah, it was
Giddey.
It was Giddey.
Yeah,
It
was
Slob-
Giddey. It
the
was the
Slob
Slob
Wizard.
Wizard himself.
Yeah.
How is it interesting?
Can't believe that one didn't pan out.
Game-losing 5-second violation. I don't think Doug Christie. I mean, he's not this insane X's and O's guys, but maybe for the Kings, like someone who just wants to be the Kings coach more than he wants to breathe oxygen. I mean, he uppercutted Rick Fox in the face during a preseason game 20 years ago. Like I feel like he was destined like for this life, and I think the players really buy into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like, as far as X's and O's goes, we spent this whole season being like, okay, well, the Kings are more talented than this, and like every time the Kings, like a team would beat the Kings, it got to a point where like the first 25 games when a team would beat the Kings, I would be like, okay, well, that's a quality win. I don't care where like the Kings are at in the standings because I felt like they were a talented team and like overcoming them. It was still like, I don't know, the worst teams in the league shouldn't be able to do that. And then the further they went down the standings, the more I was kind of like, is this a quality win? Is this a good team? Like, what's going on right now? And then Doug gets the job, and it's like, okay, well, maybe X's and O's aren't necessarily the most important thing for the team at this juncture. And maybe we'll see that rear its head down the road if they get into like a difficult matchup with a guy who's more experienced in that stuff. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, because as far as him taking over, now it just feels like the talent of the team is kind of performing at least at like a more baseline normal level in terms of like obviously Sabonis, insane double machine, but like Malik Monk, DeRozan, Fox, all of those guys, and then all of the role players, yeah, just going from getting yelled at to getting like praise. I guess it makes a big difference for the construction of some teams. The only other so the thing I wrote down as far as like stood out to me, big change that we haven't touched on already, is competency in the clutch is kind of back in Sacramento. Just like genuinely one of the most disgusting teams to watch in close games for the first third of the year or whatever, where it's like if they went into the final 5 minutes and it was tied or they were up 6 or whatever, I was like, yeah, doesn't feel like they're going to hold on to this. And then in this win streak, I guess the Celtics win stands out to me as the best clutch win, even though I don't know if it was ever officially in clutch time, like 5 minutes and 5 points, but it was tied at 76 going into the fourth quarter, and I specifically remember both Boston announcers being like, well, this is where the Celtics want them, because this is the worst clutch team in basketball. This, if you could get them into these situations, this is where they're going to come up short. And obviously they outscored Boston 38-21 in that fourth quarter. Aaron, I'll let you lead off. Just like, you don't even have to necessarily like reference certain decisions that were made. Just how does it felt in the clutch lately for the Kings, and how did that Boston win feel as a Sacramento fan?
Well, the Boston one was fantastic. I mean, if you don't think that game was in the clutch, you don't know Kings basketball.
Yeah.
Take whatever the score is, take 10 points off the Kings. That's the real score until the buzzer sounds. And so when it was a 10-point game in the fourth quarter, that's still a close game. We are 3 possessions away from watching that bleed. Now, the clutch stuff really stands out because I've watched the Pistons game with my own eyes. I watched us lead by 20 at half and slowly bleed that out.
So
and
crazy,
what I
dude.
did.
Oh my god.
In the fourth quarter, it was an interesting game because Sabonis was out. Sabonis was out.
Mm-hmm. In the Pistons
And he
game,
was
yes, he was.
Yeah, Sabonis was out, and we just couldn't get any space. It felt like Fox and Monk would basically cross half court and then hit the Jets as hard as possible, just in an effort to like maybe we'll get to the basket here. And it didn't feel like there were sets being run. It felt like DeRozan, when he'd get the ball, he really wasn't in his spots. It just nothing really felt planned or. I guess just planned. Nothing really felt planned. And something to note is the Kings throughout Mike Brown's tenure underachieved their net rating by a massive amount. Even now, we're still towards the bottom of the league. Basically the sixth most underachieved net rating. We should have more wins than this. We were second to last during the Mike Brown tenure. And so we're, like you were saying earlier, we're starting to kind of float back to like this roster is playing like it should, like winning the games we should, and then closing the closer games.
Pablo, what are you thinking up there?
How do you guys feel about DeRozan so far? Because when I've gone to the Kings subreddit, there has been a lot of criticism for him. People feel he's like a ball stopper, that he's like separate from the rest of the team. And over the course of this winning streak, one of the things we've talked about during our Kings segment is like DeRozan's been chucking. Like there was a stretch where over the course of 3 games, I think he took 66 shots and scored 66 points. And so overall, how do you feel about DeRozan? Is he a positive? Is he a negative? What's going on?
I think he's a positive so far. He's not a perfect fit with his team, and it's very obvious at times. But the issue with him is that it occasionally feels like, playing DeRozan ball comes at the wrong time, because that's what it is. Sometimes there's going to be, if you've got DeMar DeRozan on your team, there's going to be periods of times where it's like, hey, I'm going to shoot mid-range jumpers for the next 5 minutes, and you guys are going to watch. And when he's doing that on its own and it's slowing down the Kings, that's when it starts to look really ugly for him. But when he's able to do it off of Sabonis screens and he's able to run more, and there's a couple different flavors of DeMar. Like there's the Chicago DeMar where it's like, I'm the number one guy. Like I'm shooting all these shots. Like I'm going to single-handedly get us to a win. And then there's more of San Antonio DeMar where he's more of a playmaker. He averaged like 6-5 assists a game over there. And when you see that DeMar come out more, when he's coming off Sabonis screens, when he's kicking to corners, when he's driving and moving more, that's a more positive player with the Kings. It's just the ball stopping there's a time for that in the Kings offense. Late in games, fine. The Kings are getting ran on by another team and they need to get to the line, then that's great too, because the Kings don't really have a guy who can get to the line consistently like DeMar can. So it's great in that moment. But when the games don't really necessitate DeRozan ball and it just starts happening because, the offense isn't hitting or he feels like he needs to get some shots up, whatever, that's when it gets to negative. It's playing DeRozan ball is a negative for the Kings, but when he's getting integrated into the system is a huge positive. He's been great when he's actually running and playmaking.
Aaron, how do you feel
shooting
about
threes.
that? And shooting threes. Everybody's a spacer on this team.
I really have liked DeRozan. No, I think it's been underwhelming in a sense. I give it like a B or a B minus so far. Like the contract's not that bad. It's not that long and it's not that expensive. And so it's nothing that's going to weigh like the Kings or the Kings' future down. I really like his isolation offense. It's not churning out the greatest offensive rating. He's still positive when he's on the floor and he's giving us more offensive output than he's giving away defensively. The Kings' ability just to kind of drop it off to him, and if the defender on him is a mismatch, he torches them. If you get him off a switch, he's getting that shot off. He also has such a great ability to get to the line. He takes these jump shots, and he will jump and release right after he gets fouled. His release time changes every time. He just waits until he feels someone hit him in the hand, basically, and then he flips the ball up. I think I need to find this stat. He drew a foul and a jump shot 3 times in a game I was watching earlier in the season, and just one single game foul on these turnaround jump shots. I feel like he has to have the most free throws off of just shooting mid-range jumpers in the entire league.
Yeah, it's kind of like an archetype that died with the mid-range death with the Kobe and the Dwayne Wade type guys. But yeah, he's a very interesting combination of traits because like the mid-range thing is outdated, but the free throw thing is super progressive. The playmaking is super progressive, and he's a good driver, but he's also not that athletic and doesn't create a ton of super easy looks at the rim against great defenses. But he also doesn't shoot threes, but he can. It feels like he should, but he doesn't. So yeah, he's a very funky player. But another thing Ben covered in his article is Keegan Murray. He's been one of the big disappointments for the Kings over the course of the season. His offensive efficiency has ticked back up since Doug Christie has taken over, and Ben has linked that to the Keon Ellis resurgence. He thinks that playing Keon Ellis has lowered the defensive usage and like burden on Keegan Murray, and it's allowed him to have more energy to play on the offensive end. Is that something you guys have noticed too? Jack, answer this.
Yes, I mean 100%. He absolutely nailed it. When Keegan and Keon are on the floor together, the Kings have an 8.3 or a positive 8.3 net rating. When it's Keegan and Kevin, they're a negative 1.5. I don't want to diminish the ease of being or diminish, how difficult being an NBA head coach is, because obviously it's insanely difficult. I would never survive. I don't even think I could survive coaching high school basketball.
I'll do it.
But
Put me in.
Just don't play Kevin
Aaron's got
Herter.
it.
Just don't play Kevin Herter. That's all you have
That's
to
what
do.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
The Kings have this beautiful backcourt room right now where they have 2 guys who are phenomenal on-ball guards, and they have 2 guys who are phenomenal off-ball guards. Start one, bench one. It's so.
You guys don't
just
know
doing
what
that,
it's like
those
to
competitions.
be at the bench, in front of the bench, and telling Kevin Herter, no, stay there. You have no clue what it's like. It's a totally different when he's there. He's like a banshee.
He's a big softy. He looks down the bench and he sees Kevin Herter go, oh, it's my turn. Like he sees his eyes light up, and Mike Brown just can't tell him no is the problem. And so he's like, Get in there, Kevin, for your minus 12 or whatever. Oh, man. Yeah.
He was minus 24 in 18 minutes against the Bucks. That's insane. That's
impressively
shocking.
That's so sick.
Well,
Oh,
it's
my.
all
Yeah,
politics,
I can't believe that guy cutting his minutes kind of coincided
Yeah.
with all this
Do
stuff.
you want another fun
They need to
Herder
cut it
stat?
entirely.
Yeah,
Please,
they just
yeah.
Go ahead.
They just can't even play him. Here's another fun one. With Herder on the floor in the last 8 games, the Kings have been outscored by 47 points in 100 minutes.
Nice. And this is a team. I
sounds
was
good,
looking at the
right?
net rating shit. In that stretch, this is the same team that is like their net rating is like double the number 2 net rating. They're like 30 plus 30, and OKC's like plus 15 or something. And so yeah, even in that setting, Herder is still disastrous to this extent. And so yeah, I really don't know what's gonna happen with him. I guess. Oh, so the momentum is rolling, even with the Bucks loss and everything. The momentum is turned the way that you want it to. You're at least heading in a positive direction. However, I've seen both of you touch on this online a little bit. It's dangerous to have your team playing well enough that a incompetent front office would look at the roster and be like, we're good enough right now. We're playing well, so we don't have to make changes. And so I'm curious, Jack, I'll let you start, and then we can go to Aaron. What do you want to see happen to have this momentum continue?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to it feels weird to say this, but last night's loss to the Bucks is probably a good thing because it's a reminder that this team has a very obvious issue, which is that when you play a team like the Bucks, who have Brook Lopez, Giannis, Bobby Portis, a bunch of big dudes, Kings can't really do a lot against them. Teams can throw size at the Kings, and the Kings don't have size to throw back. Putting Alex Len on Giannis is an embarrassment. If you think you want to play winning basketball in 2025, Alex Len cannot be your Giannis stopper. That can't be the guy that you're putting on bigger defenders. This team still needs the same things that it's needed for the last 3 years. They need guys who can guard bigger defensive players. You've got Keon and Devin to guard the perimeter. You've got Keegan, who's a phenomenal defender, but you need someone who can guard size. Keegan is a great defender around the perimeter, but he isn't a center. You know, the Kings tried to get him to bulk up to play this small ball 5, and then they abandoned that because it just doesn't work. They need someone who's going to be able to defend the rim.
Yo.
And who is that?
Pablo. I'm mutual. Sorry, not to derail this, but I'm mutuals with the director of content for the Jazz, and they just DM'd me asking if they could send you a Sensabaugh jersey. I'm dead serious right now.
That's awesome.
So, but that would require your home address, and so sorry. We can get
God.
back to the Kings now. I was just looking at my phone and I saw that pop up.
Wow.
Yeah,
Dude.
big news. Like this is.
What is
big
Pablo's home address? That's a good topic of
That's what I'm
conversation.
saying. This is all.
Yeah,
I didn't
we
really
should
get the
figure that
DM.
out.
This is just to get him to say it on camera. My home address.
Yeah, go ahead. You know, Jack needs it right now.
Yeah.
Could you just go ahead? You know?
I should say one of our loyal lobbyists, Bwomp, I believe it was, on Twitter, dropped an address. He traced me. He said this is my address, and he dropped an address. I'll reveal I'll reveal in a year when I move whether he was close or whether he was far away. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right.
I'm gonna attach an Apple AirTag to the bottom of your car.
Nice.
To figure out where you're going.
Nice.
Oh God.
Yeah.
But yeah. So the
There you go. That's actually why we're here.
The last thing I wrote down from Ben's wonderful article that actually I forget where it was posted at. I'll have to pull it up and find out. But the last thing he talked about is the schematic changes that Doug Christie has made on the defensive end, and he says that the change is actually just more chaos. He is changing the defensive coverages on a regular basis, and they're just throwing out a bunch of different stuff. And one of the things he said is over the last 8 games, Christie has allowed Sabonis more freedom to defend on the perimeter. Conventional wisdom would suggest that Sabonis, a limited mover, park in the paint and sit back and drop coverage, but teams burn this coverage, forcing hard closeouts. And so, yeah, the defensive strengths rest with explosive, rangy perimeter defenders who thrive covering large areas. So that's pretty interesting. How do you feel about a strategy of just chaos? I always feel like on offense, pace can kind of cover up for a lot of bad teams. Like if you just turn up the pace, that can cover up some mistakes and just create more opportunities. Defensive wise, this is becoming more of a trend, I feel like, slowly going forward, where unpredictability is king. Like there's this one coach that I follow on Twitter who he's a big time advocate for helping off of the strong side corner on defense just to change things up, because in basketball that's like a cardinal sin, right? Like never help on the drive off the strong side because it's just one pass away to the corner three. But he's always been like, no, the best way to play defense is have no dogmas, no just cemented rules that defenses can predict. Unpredictability is king. And so, is king. So how do you feel about the random defense going forward, Aaron?
It's a really interesting concept, and I want to mention like Sabonis's defensive numbers because I think overall, for some reason, Domantas Sabonis has like the worst PR in the entire league.
Yes,
and
I hate him.
I'm
just
part
of
you are
the media
speaking
machine
to,
against
like,
him.
My brother is a Kings fan, and he we were talking while I was home for the holidays, and he was like, yeah, I like listening. It's just every time the Kings come up, Pablo somehow ties it back to Sabonis is fucking terrible, and that's why they'll never do anything.
Your brother's a Kings fan. Where is he? He should be here right now.
I guess, yeah.
Bro.
I'll have him pre-record a segment next time. We could play it for this. He's a Malik Monk guy. That's how he got hooked on the stuff. And so, yeah, the beginning of this season, he's only been a fan of the NBA for like a year and a half. He really liked the Light the Beam year. And so I was like, every time I've checked in on him, he's been like, yeah, it's dark days in Sacramento. But with the win streak, it's been cool. Random defense. Sorry, yeah.
Random defense, or really just Sabonis's defense. With him on the floor, opponents have shot 2.2% worse around the rim, and he's not giving up any extra percentage either way on three-pointers, and teams have shot 0.9% worse on all mid-range shots. There really isn't a place where Sabonis is being picked apart. He is one of the more nimble and athletic centers in the league. And I just think like the bruising style makes people think that he's like 290 pounds when he flips his hips very well. His hips do not lie, and he moves his feet. He's able to stay in the perimeter. His pure rim protection, like the wingspan, getting up there for blocks, like isn't very high, but his placement and his strength is very good, where the Kings are an average defensive team. I think people really, they saw the Kings in the Light the Beam year have this crazy offense, and they sacrificed all their defense for him. They're like, this is a flaw that Sabonis is causing. And even as we moved away from that and have played good defense and have been a really good defensive unit in the past 2 weeks or since the Mike Brown firing, it's really not something you can pick on. I think, he had the series against the Warriors where Kevon Looney crushed him on the boards. You try and out physical Looney and Draymond with broken ribs and a broken hand. Like I think it was definitely like an injury thing in that standpoint.
And no other like
I
bigs
guess I'd like to...
on the roster either. It's one thing to go to war with Looney and Draymond if you have like a power forward. And shout out to Murray for being like a big guy, but like firmly a wing. And so sorry, someone just knocked on my door. Aaron, keep talking.
It was so Barnes was playing power forward, and he's not fucking rebounding, and so you get basically Sabonis going against two bigs and Draymond stomping on his ribs, and you look at that series and they're like, oh, he can't play in the playoffs, and like, give him another chance, I promise he'll do good. I think like that defense can be elite. I made a prediction before the season that the Kings have a top 10 defense. With Kevin Huerter playing this much, it's not going to happen. When he gets his minutes finally axed, I believe in my heart of hearts that we're going to finish the season in the top 10.
Yeah, it is interesting that the remedy to Nikola Jokic, who's a guy who's faced a lot of the same criticism that Sabonis has for defense over the course of his career, the remedy for him for a lot of his career has been like hard hedging defensive schemes where he's running out to the perimeter to bother guys, and they make up for it with rim protection in other areas. With like when he's up top, Aaron Gordon is down low. Jack, how do you feel about the Kings rim protection outside of Sabonis? Like, is Keegan Murray a good help side rim protector? Is Keon Ellis? How many guys do they have who can fill in those spots and actually make a difference and be an obstacle at the rim?
Not many, man. And that's the biggest thing that I think the Kings need to target. I know that a wing is like, that's been the buzzword for the Kings for the last 3 years, but they really need to get a guy who they can actually, switch off the look from Sabonis, just someone that, because Sabonis is, when Sabonis is on the floor, teams are going to be able to attack the rim, and we see that constantly. You got to have a different look. There isn't another guy on the roster that's really doing that. There's Alex Len, who is only a positive rim protector because he's 7'2". He's a good rim protector because he just stands like this in front of the rim. And that's useful because he's 7'2". But you really need a guy who's a little bit more twitchy.
They can't really play together, right?
They can. They absolutely
Hell
can.
no.
They
Hell
tried
no.
to they tried to do
what's
that in
interesting
the
is his
third game of the year, and it didn't work.
Len's minutes have been a disaster.
He's been awful. He's been awful.
Teams are shooting 12% better around the rim. Now, he's basically just playing like garbage time. He plays occasionally. He started that Pistons game. But yeah, he has been one of my favorite players in last season, where it's like he actually is so good at defending the rim that you can just supplement him behind Sabonis and we could be a pretty good defense. But now I'm just in the camp that Sabonis is a good defensive player. You can't convince me otherwise.
I think Sabonis, part of his like PR problem is because I think he gets pretty miscategorized as a big man. I think a lot of people see how physical he is under the rim. A lot of people see how big he is on the floor, how physically imposing he is, and just kind of instantly label him as this traditional big camp in the center kind of guy. When the reality is he's secretly the league's best small ball center. Like, he's secretly kind of fast. He can handle the ball in transition. There you go, Aaron. Yeah. He can. There are not a lot of centers who can, run and handle the ball like Sabonis can in transition.
Yeah.
He's got the 3-point shot to really justify that label. I think he's the best small ball center in the league. And I think if you frame him like that as a defender, then you're there. It's like
That's
him
so
and
based.
Cat and someone else.
Yeah.
So based. Thank you.
Propaganda machine is churning right now.
So
We are cooking
would,
this up.
What would be the dream going forward in terms of a front court built to make him viable? Is it he moves to the 4 and you get some kind of bigger guy who can play alongside him? Or is it
like a pacer,
or,
like shot block?
Or is it finding like the Kings version of Aaron Gordon to make up for the?
I think it's more of the second thing. I think it's more the second thing. I think the idea of playing Sabonis with another big is really interesting, but it seems a bit slow. I think you do want a guy who's more of an Aaron Gordon, who can be, a threat on transition, who can run a lot more. Ideally, can shoot a 3. That'd be nice. Someone who really stands out to me as a person who could fill this is John Collins. If you can ever get him out of Utah, that's a guy who, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
It's John Collins. He's getting paid $1 grillion a year, but he can shoot threes. He can defend the rim. He's a big body.
What is he making? Is it still bad?
I think he's making $28 a year with a player option. It's really ugly.
Yeah, the Hawks.
Yeah,
they really bought into that one season of his, and he's been playing great. Like, fit wise, outside of the money, that's like something I hadn't considered. That would be like really good next to Sabonis. I like that a lot.
Yeah,
It's a
John Collins would be interesting. Cam Johnson, is the big guy who's been linked with the Kings forever. Like, I feel like Cam Johnson to the Kings has been a rumor for the last 2.5 years. And I think it's interesting, but the price is probably getting a little too high. And at a certain point, I think, it is, he's Cam Johnson. He's not worth 2 first-round picks. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, a first-round pick in Devin Carter for Cam Johnson is crazy. Like, he's a great swing man. He can shoot threes. He can play good defense, and his contract's okay, but he always gets injured, and he has like the ultimate green light in Brooklyn right now. So he's going to regress when you trade for him. Like, that's just gonna happen. 2 first-round picks is nuts.
Tough.
I hope they don't do that.
It's tough because, like, for OKC to give up a contributor and draft capital doesn't matter. It does, like, they could do whatever they want, and so it'd be cool if the Kings could get Cam Johnson, or like any team that's linked to Cam Johnson. It would be cool, I guess, but as far as like looking at the trade market, I'm operating under the assumption that, like, I won't even like get my hopes up if I'm a different team, because I'll just assume that OKC wants him and will outbid us if we like really push them. And yeah, like maybe we'll put an offer on the table that will make OKC spend 3 first-round picks or something, but like they won't feel it at all. And if they pass on that offer, now all of a sudden, oh shit, we overpaid massively for Cam Johnson in a way that we can't afford. We can't give up Devin Carter and 2 firsts or whatever, and like really move forward with that as like a serious roster. And so yeah, John Collins would be cool. I don't have trade packages for any of these guys. And maybe while I was away, they had to test my smoke detector real quick. That's what that was, by the way. And it works, thankfully. But so yeah, in terms of continuing the momentum and altering the roster construction, are there serious trade targets? Like Jack, I've trolled you a bit with the Kuzma trade package. And I really don't think that would be like I don't think the package would make it like nightmarish. I think that is an avenue for you guys to get off Kevin Huerter. I think the Wizards, like, just for a little bit of draft capital and maybe like a promising young guy, would give it up. And I mean, Kuzma's not going to change your life, even like near to what Cam Johnson will do. But he is a wing, and I do feel like he could be a more serious basketball player in a structured environment as opposed to what he's been in Washington this year. But yeah, are you guys looking to, like, if there's a move for Sacramento to make, where do you want them to bolster the roster? Jack, I'll give it to you. I know you just dropped John Collins, but anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, someone who can play any of like the 3, the 4, or the 5. Just someone preferably over the height of 6'8" is an above the rim presence is just something you need. You will not hear from me if it's like Bruce Brown or some other guard.
Oh
like
my
that just
God.
can't happen. It has to be someone who is over 6'8". Ideally, I mean, some people throw out the idea of Jonas Valanciunas, and I think it's horrible. I think that's just not a good idea at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be a guy who's defensive. Like, you can't bring another defensive zero on this team, which is why I'm so critical of the idea of Kyle. If it's Kevin Huerter and a 2nd-round pick, then you're not giving up. You're not getting much skin in the game for Kyle Kuzma. But like, what is Kyle Kuzma doing for you? Like, he can't defend. He's shooting like crap right now.
Who knows? Who knows? You
Yeah.
know?
I
No,
don't
he
think he
can't.
wants
Come
to
on.
anymore.
No, he doesn't want
Really
to. He didn't-
quickly, Jack, we did a Kings draft a trade target tier list. Do
We
you
did.
have that?
I
who
do.
was in our S tier? Here, I'll
let me
talk
pull
for
it
a
up. Let me
second.
pull it up. Yeah.
Is
I think
Jeremy
with
Grant
Kuzma-
still rumored at all or no?
Floated,
Grant
right?
is-
I mean, kind
Floated.
of.
Grant's tough because at least Kuzma's contract descends, I'm pretty sure. Whereas I was looking at Grant's contract the other day, and he's like straight up $30 million next year. And it's like, oh, shit, okay, we're getting serious with that money.
I also feel like Grant is very kind of DeMar-esque. They play. It's very similar. I think he's a little better defensively. I think he's more athletic. He shoots the ball better. He's just a better player, cooler guy, probably funnier too. But I think with the Kuzma thing, you get. I hate the vibes so
Oh, yeah.
much. I hate the vibes so much where it's just like it's very DeAndre Ayton like. Where it's like, what's your goal in the NBA? And it's like, to get a max contract. Then he gets one, and he's like, I don't care anymore. Like, I fucking told you guys in the beginning, this is all I wanted. For someone that, like, he loves it in Washington, nothing matters. He gets paid a ton of money. I can't imagine him coming to Sacramento of all places and being like, I'm really going to lock in now. It's like, no, I'm really taking this seriously. He's not doing that. Like, he's not going to be like, no, I really liked playing in 2020 next to LeBron. I can't wait to play defense again. Like, he's just not interested.
Yeah. Me and Aaron did a big old tier list of guys that we like for trade targets. And Aaron, I got to be honest, the top tier that we made, I don't think any of these guys are like even a thought anymore. It's Herb Jones.
They're
Not
not
happening.
available.
Trey Murphy,
Not
not
happening.
happening. Cam Johnson, probably not. We had Chris Murray on there.
No, maybe.
Hey, maybe, because that'd be
Oh,
funny.
maybe.
Get
I
our own
want him. I
territories.
want Chris Murray.
I want
yeah.
Chris Murray. I think that'd be funny. We have Ayo Dosunmu, who Aaron's grandma loves. We have Walker Kessler, who's probably not on the board anymore. We have Bryce Sensabaugh, which was just for you, Pablo. City
you
Sissoko
wish.
from the Spurs. And we have and Jabari Smith Jr.
What?
on Houston. But But the more interesting group we made.
Has Sissoko been playing?
I like City Sissoko, bro. Come on, City
Jack
Sissoko's
loves
good.
his like
I like this game. I have a bunch
rotational
of
wigs that
It's
don't
so
play.
funny.
Yeah, I have
it's
like
so
a whole
funny to be
list.
like, I like Sissoko with Vezenkov directly above your head in the background.
I
Just
know,
like
right?
there's these guys that are on the fringes that I'm gonna
There's a lot
moneyball
of
the
guys like
Kings
that.
into title contention.
Dude, I'm moneyballing. When you're a Kings fan, you've got to be the Moneyball guy. Like, here are some other names I've got on here that are totally in that. Like, I've
There's
got
the
Jamal.
Lakers,
Yeah.
there's the Clippers, there's 500 feet of crap, and then there's
the
us.
Kings.
Wait, you've got
I've
Jamal.
got, I've got
Hills.
Jamal
If we try
Cain.
to play like the Lakers in
Yeah.
here, we're gonna lose like the Lakers out there.
Oh my,
We got
Cain.
Jamal
Yeah.
Cain, Wendell Moore. We have Jeremiah Robinson Earl up here. We have
Okay.
Caleb Houston. We have Chuma Okiki. We have a lot of names
I
up
like
here, man.
Houston.
I like Houston
Okay.
too.
Well,
I like Houston too. The
some of them
are
realistic.
We're gonna get cash for a second rounder, and
Yeah.
you're gonna fucking like
I'm
it.
gonna fucking
You're gonna
love it.
love cash considerations.
And PJ Tucker for Herter's contract.
not PJ Tucker. Don't do that to yourself. Yeah,
He wants to
hey,
play.
Rasheed Wallace could be in play too. Sissoko has appeared in 13 games this year at 3 minutes a game. It was
Ooh.
12 games last year at 12 minutes.
Good
so,
player. Good player. Good
Is
player.
this
That's
based
good.
off?
He's
Is this
cheap.
based off
He can
the G
afford him.
League or what?
No, I mean, I always make it a habit to go to the summer league does its first couple games in Sacramento. So I always
see.
go to those. I always get good tickets. So whenever guys like really pop there, I'm like, okay, this is my guy now. And City Sissoko was really cooking in like those 3 games. He was great.
That's so
Him
sick.
and Mamu Kelishvili on the Spurs. I'm a big fan of Mamu Kelishvili.
Guy.
Well, he's
Hanson Yang,
he's actually
future-
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
Sandro. Sandro would be great on the Kings. He's a big, tall dude who can shoot out of Seton Hall. Big fan of Sandro.
Oh man, guy who
Shout out to Hanson Yang.
openly allows
Oh.
summer league to mold his opinion. He's like, yeah, that's how I form these.
Uh-huh.
Actually, is summer league basketball. Hey, and you know, it is what it is. I'm sure you will hit on one of those eventually,
Uh-huh.
and you'll just be able
One of
to
them will
hang
work.
your hat on that for years.
I mean,
But
Keon
it-
Ellis
for-
was
for
kind of
now-
one of those guys.
I guess so. Yeah, you're right. You're
Summer
right.
League Demon 2021. I mean, come on.
Ooh.
You would
Okay.
have been a big Denzel Valentine guy, huh?
Dude, I would have been all over it.
Well, no one could have seen.
Well,
that coming,
Kuzma
you know?
too. The champions, the Lonzo Ball year.
True. Davion Mitchell, MVP of the Summer League.
Fuck.
Wasn't
Was he
all in on that
really?
one. He was. I think that's right.
yeah.
Let me look that up.
Yeah, because he was 25. He's-
It's the same with Kuzma. Yeah, he was fucking 30
yeah,
years
he
old.
was.
Just
The
nuking
same with
guys.
Denzel Valentine.
I'm sensing a pattern.
there it
Wait a second. Jaime Jaquez was killing it in Summer League. What's going on?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
Summer League co-MVP, Davion Mitchell.
Who
With
was
who?
the other
Wow.
one?
Oh, co-MVP. Wow.
Yeah, look at that.
I love the cycle of older rookie plays well in the first 2 months of a season. And everyone's like, these GMs really overthink it. You gotta take the NBA ready.
How did
products,
Dalton
and in
Connect
1 year-
fall this far?
How do they do that? What's going on? It's because he's
Mhm.
36 years old.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I will say, at least with Connect, the train has died off a little bit. It wasn't like, and to be fair, he is not like Jaime Jaquez is better than Dalton Connect, or at least he had like a better comprehensive rookie season that like there were moments you could justify talking about him over and over, and we haven't seen that with Connect as much. But yeah, it's just like I don't know. We've talked about that a lot on here, where very clearly already, like, if we redrafted, Jaquez is going 4th overall or whatever, and now we're 3 months in to the sophomore season. It's like if we redrafted, he's not going like top 10 now or something, and it's like, yeah, okay, it's ridiculous. I don't know. As far as like my notes, that's pretty much all I had. Was like
We've
getting
got
to
some
this
lobbyist questions.
oh shit, yeah, I forgot about. Do you have them written down?
I have my phone pulled up. So
Okay.
we've got one from Najee Peach Cream Marshall. We
I
have a
know
guy-
this guy. Yeah,
You know this
He's
guy?
cool.
He's
Yeah, I
big
know this
into
guy.
he's big into
Dude.
pushing this nickname for Najee Marshall.
I love
Peach.
this guy. Peach Cream Najee Marshall, the knife.
Do not bring up the knife. He's Najee Peach Cream Marshall. Do the Kings ride the Doug Christie? He said, "Do the Kings ride the Doug Christie long term, or do they go get a new head coach, like maybe Luke Walton, Alvin Gentry, or David Yeager?"
Ooh.
I really hope we keep Christie.
I
I
do
really,
too.
because I can picture the most. Close your eyes. Imagine the most mediocre 15-year head coach in the NBA. He's already in his early 60s, and he's a professional. And they're like, yeah, and like okay, and it's Mike Brown again. I like the energy. I just want to stick with it. Let's write this out. He's the Sacramento Kings head coach.
What, Aaron? You don't want Terry Stotts as the next head coach?
No, Terry Stotts is a great coach, but he doesn't have the fire. He doesn't have the
No.
passion.
Yeah.
You got to be a special kind of sicko to coach the Sacramento Kings and to want to coach the Sacramento Kings. Terry Stotts can get a head coaching job for another team. He can go to a nicer city with cooler players and funnier people and and get a head coaching gig. And Doug Christie's perfect for Sacramento.
Yeah, I like Doug. I like Doug a lot. He's the wholesome psycho. I'm a big fan of him. He's got a certain pizzazz that I think really endears me to him. If the Kings managed to turn this season around after a 13-19 start where they looked just DOA, I think he's got to keep the job.
Yeah, and the West is insane. The fact
The
that
West is
we're alive in this Western Conference when this is there's gonna be 10 50-win teams in this ridiculous conference. But I mean, Philly in the East, Philly is the 11th seed. Can I read you their starting lineup for tonight?
Oh, please.
please.
Yeah, I didn't read the.
Yeah.
I saw the graphic. Someone quoted it, and they were like, "This is one of those. I was a fan for these lineups graphics, except you have 3 guys on max contracts."
Kelly Oubre, Ricky Council IV, Gershon Yabusele, Eric Gordon, and Reggie Jackson.
Oh,
And this team is fighting for the play-in spot.
Yeah.
It's a whole different sport over there. And I think we've established ourselves like we're going to play well enough to at least make the play-in. I think we're better than the Timberwolves. I think we're better than the Lakers too.
Ooh.
And so I do have
And the
like
Warriors.
6 seed and the
I don't
Warriors.
know.
We're already ahead of them though.
Yeah.
That's in the rearview mirror of the goddamn 12 seed right now.
the Wolves are crazy to me, and like I don't think it's a crazy take. It's just like I have no idea what to make of the Wolves. Where it's like if you could pivot into like, it's like Kevin Huerter, but he's like one of the pillars of your offense with Randall. Where it's like if you could pivot into like average guy in those minutes, then maybe the whole construction of the team kind of like rights itself. But it's going to be a lot more. You can't just bench Randall the way you could be like Huerter, you're done. Oh, I mean maybe they could. Who? What do I know?
Maybe they could. I just
They
feel like
could.
such an idiot, such a fool. Because I sat here and watched a team trade for Julius Randle and was like, maybe it'll work out. Come on, man.
Yeah.
They traded for Julius Randle. That was
No.
just an obvious mistake. I should have known.
That was the big thing I was like praying for all offseason. I was like, please don't be the team that buys in on Julius Randle. Just don't be us. Just don't be us. Shout out to Kyle Kuzma for the quote.
Yeah, I mean, literally, yeah. I had not considered you guys a destination for that at all. But that would have been pretty crazy to just like Sabonis Randall paint would be like some of the most disgusting shit I could imagine.
Ugh. And we'd give up 500 points a night, and Kevin Huerter would still start.
All right,
What do you got, Pablo?
Wait, so did you guys read out the trade tier list, the full one?
Not the full thing.
All right,
We had
run-
like 60 guys in that thing.
Well, run me through S, and A tier at least,
I
because
gotcha.
we have a lot of questions about that. Well, we have the Michael Jordan of drunk driving, asking, are there any pieces that the Kings could want without breaking up any existing chemistry that could put them over the edge in a playoff series against someone like a Thunder, Mavs, Rockets, etc.
Okay, so the S tier of the tier list was kind of a joke, but the real actual guys that we thought could make an impact in a trade, some of these are not exactly feasible, or the Kings would have to pay a lot of money, so bear that in mind, or not a lot of money, a lot of draft equity. You've got Tamani Kamara, Kenrick Williams, Isaiah Stewart, John Collins, Larry Nance, Caleb Houston, DeAndre Hunter, Onyeka Okongwu, Robert Williams.
This is S tier?
No, I guess this is our top tier. Things are kind of dire here, Pablo.
I was
We don't have a lot of
like,
assets.
Jesus
Dude,
Christ, this is
Beast,
dreaming big.
That is dreaming big.
Caleb
yeah.
Houston made tier 1.
What was our midseason move last year, Jack? If you want to remind them.
Oh yeah, so our I mean the thing is, Pablo, that is like a dream move for us because our last year's trade deadline consisted of trading for Robin Lopez and cutting him, and then trading
Great
a
screener.
second round pick for, I don't think we traded a second. It was like a cash considerations for Filip Petrosev. Shout out to Team Serbia legend, who was also waived. So we waived 2 guys. That's all we did.
This
That was
is
it. Like we were like
that's
fighting.
the standard.
That's
Just
the
trading
standard. Like
nothing for nothing.
We were fighting tooth and nail to stay in the playoffs, and everyone was screaming like, "Oh my God, the Kings!" By the way, same problems as they have now. Hey, they can't defend big people. Hey, they can't defend big people. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna waive Robin Lopez. Enjoy. That's all we do.
Nice.
So Kenrick Williams would be like a dream. If we managed to get Kenrick Williams, I might cry a little bit. Like
Do you think
that's a
that
perfect
could-
player.
Could that put you over? Definitely not the Thunder, the Mavericks or Rockets.
I
think we could beat Houston.
think we
I
could
think we
beat
could beat
Houston.
Houston. Dallas
Yeah.
is different because I think Luke would average about 38 points a night
Yeah.
against us, but I think we could beat Houston.
Yeah.
Uh,
Houston's
the-
tough.
If you
just
did
'cause,
the
like,
if you did the John Collins thing, like I'd feel very confident in a series against Houston.
Mhm.
Like John Collins,
I
would be
did
a
go to the
sick
Houston
move.
game.
Yeah,
How did the Houston?
maybe
How
I'm
did
just
it
biased,
go?
yeah.
Did you guys beat them?
yeah,
Okay.
and we're
Well,
playing
I
them
mean-
again Thursday, tomorrow.
Ime got thrown out.
Oh,
at the end of the day.
nice.
Yeah,
Hell
it was
yeah.
that game.
Yeah,
It's so cool when he does that.
it is cool.
Yeah. I don't know. Houston's just tough because it's like I can paint a world where it's like, okay, well the transition completely dries up and I don't know, Sacramento can like regularly score against their great defense. And
They
then if
do keep teams out of transition. They keep that's one of the things in Ben's article is that they keep opposing offenses in the half court the most, I think.
lock it in then.
Elite
Lock it in
transition
then.
defense,
They beat Houston.
That's
because
They're
Sabonis
beating
is,
Houston.
I would take us over Houston.
I would too.
Hell
I would too.
yeah, dude. I love it, man. Yeah, knock yourself out. What? Who cares? Yeah, I'm fucking.
Jalen Green is getting put on Ellis Island. He's not. There's no
We
way.
were the 13 seed last week, man. I'm taking us over. I don't give a
But
shit.
De'Aaron
Like, I'm
Fox
playing
is
with house
avoiding
money
a
at this
men.
point.
They put a men on DeMar
Yeah,
in the
they
game
did.
I went to, and he completely neutralized.
Aaron, we were at we were at that game together.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, Pablo, who's next?
So and then the Michael Jordan of drunk driving also has a little personal message, I think directed to you, Aaron. I'm hoping you'll fully know what this means because I don't. He says, I also want to take time to apologize to Taj Gibson for inserting myself into his play profile to state my lack of respect for one Mr. Aaron Schroeder. I still don't respect Aaron Schroeder, but Taj deserves some love. Parentheses, Nick Legend. As I'm writing this, I
That's-
forgot that he's still in the league, so shout outs to him.
That's right. Let me find that. I made a video where it was like a Taj Gibson Legends profile. I said in the dying hours of TikTok, I'm going to spend my time doing this. And someone said, great video, but unfortunately I cannot respect you, Aaron Schroeder. And I said, did Pablo Escobar send you?
Mm,
And he said, hashtag world famous, hashtag schizophrenia, hashtag state of the
Nice.
league.
Nice.
well, just know I didn't
Arnie.
tell him to do that directly. I just instill a certain culture into people.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, it's you're a culture builder, kind of like Ime Udoka.
kind of. All right, who? Do we have any more requests?
Leo Brevison says, do you see the Kings as a legit playoff team or more of a streaky play-in team?
Streaky plant.
Yeah.
I think 6 seeds like high hopes. Like, oh man, that would be nice if we could just make the playoffs. But I think we'll be like 7.
And even 6 seed, like, to me, even if they magically were 6 seed, I feel like it would be a result of, like, the streakiness. We just get a 6 streak. That's all it is. Like, it's not like a team that, like, fixes all of its issues and is suddenly like, oh, we're playoff caliber in this Western Conference. It would just be like, you know, Mavs never get healthy. Some other shit breaks down in an interesting way. And then the Kings, on like a wave of good momentum, are just like, oh shit, we're the 6th seed. Nice. Yeah, I'd go streaky play in.
Well, looking at who's ahead of them, like it's the Wolves and the Lakers. I guess in Dallas too.
Mhm.
I feel like the Lakers are just bound
And the
to fall.
Clippers.
The Clippers are 5.
Yeah, the Clippers,
So we
the
have
Lakers.
3 teams to pass.
I saw this stat somewhere, but the Lakers are overperforming their net rating by like a massive amount. They're actually like ranked
Most of the league.
13. Yeah,
They
most
do
of
this
the league.
every fucking year.
They do this every
goddamn year. They win
They're
every
gonna
close
run out
game.
of gas. They're gonna run out of gas soon. If the Kings can sneak into, if the Kings can sneak into the playoffs, you've got a bunch of clutch players. You never know what's gonna happen, but they really do seem more like a streaky playing team at this point. If they make the right trade, if it's John Collins, if you told me right now John Collins is coming to Sacramento for Herter and probably Lyles, it's like, okay, I think I could get bought in on this team sneaking into like a 5 or a 6. But for now, I'm thinking streaky playing.
I do like that you mentioned the Clippers because we're only 2 games back from them. It's been such a
Yeah.
shitty season, and yet we're still kind of right there because the Clippers have been. I mean, Kawhi Leonard, he's not. You're not going to be able to get that much out of him, and it's been a lot of James Harden. And the schedule really starts to pick up in this second half. You get it's condensed. It's a lot of games. You're going to see each game gets exponentially harder as you play each one, and I can imagine the Clippers having a hard time with that.
No. Only 2 behind the Clippers in 5th, only 4.5 behind the Nuggets in 4th, and only 5 games behind the Grizzlies at 3rd. So it's just right there.
Yeah. Hey,
Another
at least we're not
7-game
Phoenix
streak.
or
We're
Golden
there.
State. This is great.
Thank goodness.
I love this
Oh, my
division.
goodness. You see that Buddy Hield's airball game winner? Wasn't that great?
Yes.
Oh my god.
That was
Yes,
great.
I did.
Oh, are you
No
guys?
one's
Are
doing
you guys
that.
buddy?
Curling off his screen. The greatest
Oh.
shooter of all time, curling off his screen. There you go, buddy. Send
Beautiful. Enjoy.
Are you guys buddy haters?
Oh, yeah.
it. I'm really not.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really
Really?
not. I think it's funny, but I enjoyed my time with Buddy Hield as a King so much that I just don't understand why he hates us. I
He
thought
just
he was
doesn't like
fine,
us.
and then he
No.
left. And he's like, "I hate that place." It's like, okay, all right, whatever, man.
It's been a lot of fun watching
I
all
thought
these
we had a
teams.
good time.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun watching all these teams learn about Buddy Hield. It was great seeing all the Warriors media people that always love chirping the Kings. Be like, oh, this the Kings, they got rid of this Buddy Hield guy. He's better than Clay. We don't need Clay anymore. We got Buddy. Okay. Yeah, I'll see you in 2 months.
Yeah, I would argue that when the Kings had Hield, it's that's probably the easiest moment to stomach the Buddy Hield cycle is when his disaster is not directly impacting playoff odds or something. Because it's much easier to look back and be like, hey, when the hot hand was going, we had some fun times, didn't we, or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas
We did. We won 38
game
games.
winner
or
against
something.
the game winner he hit against I think Detroit. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, buddy.
Whereas Jim Park now is
Jim
he's
Park.
dude, let me run into Buddy Hield in person. We'll solve this issue right now. Oh my god.
I saw a stat. It's the Kings a play but not announcer, but when someone makes his shot, he goes De'Aaron Fox. He's that guy at the Kings game. I saw him on a
Scott?
podcast saying, I forget his name.
It's Scott Moak, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember I saw him saying that during his time with the Kings, Buddy Hield shot 85% on catch and shoot threes. But if he took one dribble, he shot 11%.
Wow.
And,
That
and they
cannot
kept
be
on saying,
real.
"Buddy, don't
That can't be
dribble the
right.
ball."
Are you serious?
He said, I watched him say it. Unless it was, I think I'm pretty good at sniffing out AI. I don't know who's making AI of the
Scott
Kings
Nowak.
announcer, but he said that on a podcast. They're like, "Buddy, don't dribble."
Yeah.
Is
And
he
just-
really
kept
prone to
dribbling.
doing that? He always
I'm
just
looking it up.
throws down a dribble?
He just puts one down.
I guess
He does put one
that's
down.
really
He does do
insane
that.
because that's something that sounds like it would be a true stat in 2005, but in the age
when the
of,
sample's 17 shots.
yeah in the age of analytics where they just watch it all and they're like, hey, this is factually happening. This is not a vibe that I'm getting from you. This is I can point to the results and it is a direct correlation between these things. That feels like something that most players, especially role players, would be like, oh, okay, this will extend my time in the league by 6 years if I stop taking these dribbles. And not Hield, I guess. It's just it's a comfort thing, he needs it.
He has a system.
Yeah, I get it.
I don't have a stat, but I have a vibe check, and I would bet those numbers are the same for Nikola Mirotic when he pump faked versus when he just shot it normally, because it really felt like that.
Man.
But the last, you know what, prime Nikola Mirotic be pretty good on your guys' team right now.
Yeah.
I think he's retired.
He's
though.
probably only like 33 though, isn't he? He's probably not even that old.
The Nikola Mirotic thing makes me so
I think
sick
he's
because
done.
we
Let
had
me
Nikola
see.
Mirotic. We had Nikola
Oh, did you
Mirotic.
trade him to the
And
Bulls?
And our team didn't play. We had Nikola Mirotic, and
Oh,
our
he is
coach
33.
didn't play him.
Nice.
We had him right here.
He could come back. Let's see a
Did anyone except for me, because I'm psychotic, see the Sasha Vezenkov EuroLeague quote about Mike Brown?
What did he say?
What did
Oh,
he
what
say?
was
Yeah.
it? Just like
Yeah, here. It was something along the lines of like, yeah, I didn't like him. Like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to not be professional, but like, I didn't really enjoy having him as a coach.
I swear.
And
Sorry, you go.
he got hurt a ton. Like, he was hurt.
Mhm.
So like,
Mhm.
I understand why he didn't get the most minutes in the league, but like, he most definitely was not getting like a chance in terms of rotations. And he played. It was the same thing as like Keon Ellis, where he'd play like a minute in a game,
Yeah.
and then he wouldn't for like
Okay.
7.
I'm looking at it now. He says, I would never criticize his knowledge. He was the coach of the year in the NBA twice, so he proved something. But speaking of communication, I can't say that our conversations were correct. He was not honest. And so, yeah, for that to be like, yeah, I was always asking him like what I could do to get to like crack the rotation, providing these skills that you guys don't have from any other position, and for him to be like, yeah, you're doing everything you can right now.
You're gonna play tomorrow. I swear to God. That he
Yeah.
doesn't play.
Here's a psycho Sasha stat, because I refuse to not feel justified for loving this man.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning of his EuroLeague season this year, he has scored 370 points on 22 dribbles.
Holy shit.
Oh,
Yeah.
we misused him. We misused him for Harrison goddamn Barnes.
We did.
And like,
He had 45 points on 18 of 20 shooting a couple nights ago. Insane.
that's
bring him
pretty
back.
sick.
We can bring him back. It's okay. We have Doug.
110 true shooting, Aaron.
You have Doug
110.
now.
110.
How ridiculous is that?
So
I really liked his minutes. The on-off
did
numbers
too.
don't support that he was great, but I felt like he was better defensively than I thought he'd be. He would come in. I think he missed his first like 10 threes, and off that sample size, like it was very hard to recover from that. But man, I miss Vezenkov.
Okay.
Me too.
So
Rest
in terms of a
peace.
potential Mirotic reunion or just going to the Kings, he said a few days ago, Milan was where I was supposed to be now. So probably not going to land.
Hey,
Maybe that's a
the
translation error. He
Milan
means
of the
Sacramento.
Milan of California, Sacramento. I hear that all the time.
Oh, it is north, right? Milan?
I say that.
Yeah. All right. Do we have any more lobbyist requests?
Just one more, because most of the questions that were asked we've covered, but the last part that maybe we didn't cover specifically is this guy said, "How do you feel about trading DeMar for a backup wing and center and bringing Keon up to the starting unit?"
It's not possible. It's simply not possible.
Yeah.
The Kings get one free agent in my lifetime, and if you immediately trade that guy, I feel like that's probably a bad look. Unless DeMar is like, this isn't really working out. Like maybe we got, send me somewhere to greener pastures where I can live the rest of my days with a happier team. But I feel like that's probably not a good idea for team culture to immediately
Yeah.
trade the one guy who's like, yeah, I'll play in Sacramento.
Yeah, and I don't know how much what that really does, because I love Keon. Like, that I'll defend Keon Ellis to the end of the earth. I've got a million fantastic Keon Ellis stats, but him playing the 3 isn't the greatest. He's a hell of a player, but he's kind of got the like Jaden McDaniels kind of problem, where he is phenomenal with his hands. He's phenomenal in space, but he's really skinny. And you saw that against Boston, and you saw that against Chicago, where bigger, stronger, sort of 2-3 hybrid guys like Jaylen Brown and Zach LaVine can really, really hurt Ellis, because he's just not strong. Like, he's just not big enough to deal with those guys. He can deal with guards. He's great as a 2. As a 3, it gets a little dicey.
Yeah. Fatten up, Keon. That's what we're saying.
Let's get him eating.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's pretty much all I had on the Kings. Just a good vibe check. I'm glad. I don't know. It was sad to see what was the most fun team in the NBA for a brief moment hit the despair like truly like unprecedented levels of like it's over. And so for it to be manageable again is very good. Pablo, do you have any final thoughts on Sacramento that you want to interject?
No, I do not.
I do not. Do you guys have any? I'll give it to Aaron first. Do you have any parting words for the Kings or fans or anything?
I think we'll be back on this podcast when it is again so over, and then we'll come back when we're so back, and that's the schedule for the state of the league.
Nice. Jack, what about you?
Just make a trade, Monty McNair. Just try. Just try. That's all I want at this point. It's been 3 deadlines without even giving it just give it a shot.
Oh,
That's
is
all I want.
Herder? No, shut up, Pablo. You're not getting your Bulls trade off right
No,
now.
not that.
What was it? You could go then if it's not the Bulls.
There was right after Mike Brown was fired, there was some De'Aaron Fox smoke. They were like, because originally we assumed De'Aaron Fox got him fired, but then it's like, no, he's actually upset about that, and he's a clutch client. He might force his way out. What's the status on that?
If Fox is not going anywhere unless he requests a trade. The franchise is not going to trade him unless he specifically says, I'm not going to play in Sacramento and I want to be traded. The idea, there's been a lot of sort of buzz about how the Kings are better with Monk on the floor because there was a couple games in the streak where Fox wasn't there and everyone was like, oh, it's Malik Monk. He's better as a
What the hell's going on?
Did a little shuffle, a little do-si-do. I don't know what's going on here.
I've never seen that in my life before.
That was great.
De'Aaron Fox is fucking with everybody's computer because we're talking about shipping him out from Sacramento. Oh my god.
The idea, there was a lot of talk about the Kings being better without Fox, and they should just use Monk as the one guard because there's a couple good games where they looked better without Fox. And the reality is, those were all those numbers, all those stats, those are just Keon Ellis stats. Those are just Keon Ellis stats. That's what happens when you put an actual defender in the starting lineup. That's how it is. And I love Malik Monk, I really do. And this isn't a shot at him, but he is just not consistent enough to be the primary guy. He's a phenomenal playmaker, and he's so explosive. He's one of the most explosive guys in the league. But on a night-to-night basis, you can't really rely on him to generate your team's offense as the primary one, which is why he's such a great 6th man, because every couple times a week that he can do that, Kings don't lose.
Yeah.
If he's on, he's on. And that's why I love him on the bench. I still think the right thing is to keep him there and put Keon in the starting lineup. But that's not what's going to happen. Yeah. We know this.
And it's, I don't know. It's like on top of everything else, the fact that Monk re-signed for the number that he did and everything signals that you don't need that's not the front that you should be tweaking things on to me. You have an all-star level-ish guard and then you have one of the best 6 men in the league, and everybody is very comfortable with the role that they're playing on this roster. I don't know why obviously something needs to change. I don't think that is the thing that you should be really heavily shaking up right now, just because Malik Monk, has a cool plus minus or a sick ass dunk or something sometimes. So I don't know. Follow these guys. Hey, plug the new shit. Plug your Red Book or whatever, because shit's getting kind of nasty here pretty quick.
Nuked, yeah.
You can find me in mainland China stapling my social security number to telephone poles.
Nice.
You can find me on Twitter, Possiblechairs. You can find me on my Patreon, my YouTube channel. Post something on there at some point. And I've downloaded. It's Red Note, right?
I believe I don't have it, so it's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Pablo, help me with the pronunciation.
Xiaohong Shu, I think. I think it translates. I think it translates directly to Little Red Book, but everyone's calling it Red Note.
Okay.
The Little Red Book. All right. Yeah, I'll be emailing my search history directly to the Chinese Communist Party every night.
Yeah.
That's what I'll be up to.
If I am retained as an employee of the glorious CCP, then you can find me on TikTok at Jack the Kings Fan. But if I'm not, you can find me at the same username on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. President Xi is going to be he's gonna be like, Jesus Christ, this guy's firing up Fanspo again. What the fuck are these guys doing, dude? Yeah, go follow everybody on Everything Important, all these alternative platforms. Thank you to the Kings guys for coming on. It's been a very fun, productive episode as always. And Pau Gasol, take it away.
Lay down a list of what is wrong.